I get all the time that I scare people when I first meet them, which is hilarious because I'm one of the least scary people you will ever meet. But I think people are more scared of what I see than who I am. Hi, I'm Jensen. I'm an artist, a musician, a medium, and a spiritual guide. My first encounter with spirits as a child that I recall is when I was 1.5, probably closer to 2 because I do remember it. I was sitting in my playroom and I was talking, and I like to act things out with like my stuffed animals as most kids did, but my mom realized that I was like having a full conversation, and she like poked her head in and was like, "Hey Jen, like, who are you talking to?" And in my little girl voice, I just went, "My brothers, the ones who didn't make it out of your tummy." I was supposed to be a triplet, but 2 of my brothers didn't make it. One actually died in the fallopian tube, and the other one was a miscarriage, but I was able to see them. And I think in that moment, my mom was kind of like, oh, okay, like she sees. It's like a family thing that like the women in my mom's side of the family, like her lineage, are like connected to spirit. So it's been like super comforting and super validating to have like other people like in my family understand. I would say my mom is probably the most helpful person that I've had around my whole life. She's been able to see and communicate with spirit since she was a little girl as well. So she was able to sort of help me like harness it in and figure out what to take on and what not to take on. And as a rebellious little teenager, I didn't want to listen. And I got myself into some situations that could have been avoided if I would have just listened to her. My sister is also very helpful. She's super intuitive, and I think sometimes she chooses not to see, but she feels everything. I went to school in Savannah, Georgia, and part of the reason that I was drawn to that place is because it's one of the most haunted cities in America. So I saw a lot of people there. You do have to put barriers up as a medium. If you're not careful, like it does sort of take on like who you are, and you can like start to pick up pieces of people that aren't yours, and then you're like holding sort of this persona, and you're like, I don't know how I got here. So people would come see me and they would, you know, be distraught because they thought that their lives ended so soon and they weren't sure how to move on. And I would just kind of take that and hold it because I didn't really know what to do with it. So my roommate had a friend come into town when I was in Georgia, and the thing you do when you're in Savannah, Georgia is you go on a ghost tour. And they were like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, well, I haven't been on one in a long time, but sure. We were walking past this cemetery and I was sort of like taken aback by this girl that I saw, and she was about 15, 16, and she was in like this white school uniform, and she was just like weeping and like sobbing and wailing. But she knew that I could see her, so she was like making direct eye contact with me the whole time, where she's just like having this meltdown. I like slowly inched away from the group and I like went up, and I was just like standing there and like letting her get it out. And then like once she was done, I was like, "It's okay, you can go." And she just kind of like, and I was like, that was a lot. Anyways, so then I like walked back to the group, and the like tour guide was telling the group how there was the story of this 16-year-old girl in the Catholic Church who had her baby, but then the church took her baby away from her, and she was like, never got over it. And I was like, I just talked to her. So that was like a super heavy one that I had recently. used to impact me a lot. Specifically when I was a teenager, I sort of convinced myself that like I was crazy. I was like, I'm imagining this, like no one else gets it. I was like, I know my mom gets it, but my mom is crazy because I'm 15 and no one understands me. So sort of having that extra level of like, this makes me so different from the people around me was super hard to deal with. But I realized that it doesn't make me different, it makes me more connected to people, and having the ability to like rewrite that story and like rewire my brain to see it as not a point of isolation but a point of connection was super important to me, but it took me a while to get there. A lot of times when someone wants to get in touch with someone who has passed, it's sort of like a form of automatic writing, but it's sketching. So I'll like ask to see what this person sees or has seen, and I'll just sort of like start sketching, and then all of a sudden there's like this landscape with this person and this dragon and blah blah blah, and I'm like, that is not my idea, but it comes through me. So like it has like my art style, like it has my thumbprint on it, but the concept might not necessarily be mine, or it's things that I haven't seen but someone else has seen. A lot of my art is the same color palette because it comes from me, but if I'm channeling like through someone else, I'll pick colors that I never would have chosen, and it like becomes this whole other thing that feels like the person who's like coming through me. When I'm painting or sculpting is when I'm the most in flow, so I'll like lose track of time, and I find that that's the most healing thing, is to like just be present with whatever you're doing in one moment and kind of forget about everything else. And then at the end you have like this piece of art, right? Like it's a tangible thing and you're like, oh, I did that. I like to say that we're not humans who have a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings who have a human experience. I think that's probably the most human experience that I have, is creating art, because I'm able to like actually use my hands to like build something or paint something and like get messy. A lot of people think that death can be like this sort of super lonely and isolating experience, but it's not, because every single person has to do it and every single person will do it. So be a little kinder to yourself when it comes to mortality, and stop saying YOLO. People say you only live once. I'm always like, well, I don't know. I don't know. You can do it again if you want.